Hey guys, welcome back. I cannot wait to show you this makeover. From that to this in less than a day. Let's get into it. So I took this old table and chairs. That was the old desk for my company, and those were the chairs that we had in our old living room. And in that room, they made sense. They really worked with that design. It was a bright and fun, cheery house down in New Orleans. So that distressed look really worked there. But with our current decor where we live now, it just doesn't work anymore. So I'm sorry, train wreck chairs, but you have to go. Time to get a little bit of a makeover. And the very first thing that I did was go to Lowe's and get this piece of MDF. And I'm gonna show you here in a second, but this piece of MDF, it was huge and it was like under $17. They had all kinds of different designs, so you could do whatever you want. They had a white version, this color. I wanted that rustic barnyard look, so this is the one that I chose. You literally just measure your table length and width and then hand it to them and ask them to cut it, and they will cut it perfectly to size for free. Now, this gentleman had less than, let's say, a heaping helping of confidence in my project. He didn't think that it would work, but I said, you know what, nothing ventured, nothing gained, and let's try. So that's what you're gonna see me doing in this video. And a couple of things that you're gonna need: the MDF, obviously, and then liquid nails. I love this heavy duty stuff. Any kind of a spreader, you could use an old credit card, a paint spreader makes it easier. And then really make sure that you get that liquid nails everywhere and kind of flatten it out. I mean, all the corners, the interior space, really get it on there. Then you just take the MDF and you just lay it flat on top of the table. And then of course, break out all of your professional weights and put it on the table. And you're gonna let that sit overnight. So the very first thing that you're gonna do with the chairs is prime them. And then we're gonna spray paint the base. All of the products that I use are going to be listed in the description box below. So if I'm going quickly, don't worry about it because you can find out everything that I use below. So again, just prime them, and then I spray painted the base and the upper rails of the rose gold chair because I'm gonna fix where you see it kind of coming up in a minute. Now I mix my own chalk paint, so you can use any kind of latex paint or any kind of paint that you want, really. And I do a 1-to-1 mix, so it's 1 cup of calcium carbonate, which you can get on Amazon, and 1 cup of paint, and I just mix them in equal 1-to-1 ratio, mix them in a mason jar. That way when I'm done, I can just save everything that's left and nothing gets wasted. So after I primed them and spray painted the base, the reason that you see that it's cleaned up like that, I just used this little, I think it's called like, I don't know, whatever. You guys know what it's called. Put it in the comments below. And I just put it up there and then painted right over top of it. That way I didn't have to mess with taping it off and potentially pulling off that metallic-y color at the base. And it really, really worked. So I will be using that as a painting technique from now on for projects like this. So this is the first coat of the chalk paint, and then you're gonna let it sit for, I think I let it sit for like 2 hours. Drying is the key to chalk paint sticking to leather or anything else. And you're gonna take like a dry sponge and just kind of lightly sand it. You just try to knock off anything that's sitting on the surface, but you don't wanna leave marks. So after you let it dry and you sand it, then you're gonna paint it again. And then again, let it dry, sand it, and then you're gonna go over it with the chalk paint sealer. I love this stuff. Again, all in the description box below. It didn't cause any yellowing for my chairs. Absolutely love the way that it turned out. All right, now I did let this sit overnight, and make sure that you put weights on every corner and in the middle, just basically everywhere. Anything heavy that you have that you can lift, just throw it up there. And you're gonna see that there's a little bit of a joint there that needs to be filled in. So I just used wood filler and that very same knife, which turned out to be my best friend during this project. And I just kind of filled it in. So there you can see a shot of the wood filler, which is stainable if that's what you're gonna do to your table. Really let it dry. I think I let this dry for like an hour or maybe 2 so that it was just as hard as it could be. And that way I knew that when I sanded it, I wasn't gonna be pulling chunks of it off, and that's what you see me doing here. This is 180 grit sandpaper, and I just kind of sanded the sides until I got it, you know, as flat as I wanted it. I did not personally want mine to be perfectly flush because I wanted to have that sort of rustic, a little bit maybe stone looking tin. So here's what the MDF looked like up close. And this is after it's sanded and before I've done anything else to it. You can see it's very pretty all by itself without the covering on it. And then you just take frog tape and go all the way around the corners. You can use any kind of tape, doesn't really matter, but make sure you cut it like perfectly at the corners. And then cover up the middle so you don't get any spray paint. That is if you're spray painting the sides or painting them at all. I used some old Christmas paper that I don't love, and there you go, just taped it on there just to protect the beautiful MDF top. Now, I wanted the sides to look like this kind of rustic tin aluminum-y kind of color, which is what I'm trying to show you here, but my camera was playing hard to get. And so that's what I did right here is I just went through and I spray painted the sides that bright silver color. Anytime that you are doing any kind of like a patina vintage, more colors equals more texture, it's gonna look more realistic. So this is where you see that kind of bright silver, and then I went in with the darker silver / gray and kind of stippled that in a little bit. You just spray it onto a dry sponge. And then I wanted the rust, so that's where you see that satin cinnamon. Oh my God, I know that looks like a mess right now, but just have a little faith. It will look better in a minute. And then you really just kind of press that on there and then let it dry, 5 or so minutes between each color that you're laying down. And then you'll see I start to go back over it with both the light and the dark silver, and I'm kind of just really pressing the colors in with that sponge. And this is the look that I personally am going for, where I really like that sort of patina, tin, whatever you want to call it. And so this is where I stop. Again, you don't have to do this to the side of your table. You can leave it alone or paint it striped or whatever color you love. And I didn't want mine to look perfectly flush, which is why you see there's a little bit of, it looks a little bit rough. I did that on purpose. And I'm just showing you how beautiful this table is before we put anything shiny on top of it. It's just gorgeous. It would be so hard to get this same look without just tons of planing and flattening and all the other magical things that you'd have to do to get a table to be that flat and that flush. This is before the epoxy goes on it again. I really did like this look, but the MDF has zero chance of survival without having a protective coat over it. So here we go. Let's get into it. Right here, let me introduce you to Glaze Coat. This stuff is terrifying to use, but so easy. You literally just mix equal parts of A and B. They're clearly labeled. You mix them together and then you just pour them on. So you do this in 2 stages. The first part is where you just pour kind of a clear coat, or excuse me, a light coat. You kind of brush it on with a paintbrush, and then don't forget obviously to do the sides as well. And then you're gonna use a hairdryer or a heat gun ideally, and you kind of go inch by inch over the top, and that will pop all those little air bubbles that you see right there. Then you're gonna wanna let it sit up for 4 to 6 hours, mix the rest of the epoxy together, and then you pour it on, and then it is called flooding, and you are really going to just flood it. It's gonna look a mess for a minute. It's gonna drip everywhere, but that's okay. And then I let mine sit for 3 full days before I touched it at all. And this is the finished product, and it is just stunning to look at. I am so excited to have this in the background of my YouTube videos. The kids love it. Everybody that comes in the house, it's just warm and inviting. It feels like you're at like a diner table. These are the chairs. It just turned out really, really well. And I think all told it was less than $100 to overhaul the table and all 3 chairs. I mean, look at the gloss on this thing is indestructible. It's beautiful for YouTube videos or if you have kids. If you guys enjoy videos like this, please consider clicking like and subscribe, as I do upload videos like this to my channel every week. Thanks for spending some time with me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.